Hey everyone, welcome to another Full Empire Promotions live event. I'm Dominic. As usual, I'll be your host for this Q&A. This time we have the great Art Hindle. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, so thank you so much to everyone who's joining us live. If you'd like to ask Art any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comment section, and if time allows, we'll bring those on screen and answer them. If you'd like your own private conversation with Art, directly after this Q&A, he'll be doing meet and greets over on Zoom. You'll have 5 minutes to chat with Art about whatever you'd like, and we'll even send you a recording of the meeting. Lastly, you can get personally signed photographs and posters on fullempirepromotions.com. Those sales will end around 11 p.m. this evening, so if you'd like an autograph from Art, feel free to go on there and check it out. Well, with that being said, I'm going to roll a clip, and then we'll bring Art on.
It's me, Billy.
Blown tire. That's too bad.
You know him from such films as Black Christmas, David Cronenberg's Crazy Child movie, The Brood, the 78 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and Porky's 1 and 2. His recent horror credits include The Offspring and The Void. His upcoming credits include Night Talk, Woodland Gray, and The Art of Christmas. With nearly 200 credits on his resume, this is going to be a packed hour, and I'm excited to welcome a great friend, a talented actor, and a Canadian treasure, Mr. Art Hindle. Art, how are you?
Well, thanks, Dominic, for that amazing intro.
Oh,
who is that guy?
Yeah, that's, just the tip of the iceberg of some of the stuff that you've done, I'm sure.
Well put together. It's the first time I've seen that clip, so well put together.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just threw some clips together, just to
just threw them together.
Put them together to get us started here.
I don't even think I've seen The Void, to tell you the truth.
Oh, yeah, it's a weird movie. It's Lovecraft, so it's slime and blood and
some great special effect guys.
Yeah. And I just want to warn everybody, we did have a little bit of technical difficulties. I think we got them cleared up. But if you see a little bit of a delay, then it's the best we could do. But so far it's good. So we'll knock on wood. So how have things been going in your neck of the woods, Art? Have you been keeping busy?
Oh, busy. Yeah, as busy as ever here. We as soon as the COVID thing started up, uh, the industry here right away kicked in some great protocols, and we didn't miss a beat. We just kept going. It was difficult for actors, to say the least. We had to wear not only masks but shields over the masks uh, the whole time we were on set, and the crew as well. Plus, taking numerous tests throughout the shoot schedule. And then the only time we took the masks off, as far as the actors were concerned, is the moment we were going to do the take. And then on the word cut, they came over and gave us back our masks to put back on. So
Wow.
so the protocols made it very difficult, but you know, business is booming here in Canada and Toronto particularly.
Yeah. Well, if it's one thing I've picked up on working with actors and talking to actors is they're very accommodating, and they're very, they adjust to new things pretty fast. So I'm sure it became the norm after 6 months of doing that.
Yeah, we have to hope. You always have to hope as an actor that when you're working on set in those conditions, that the other actors have been doing what you've been doing and are safe, because you're standing, sometimes you're not standing the whatever feet or meters it is away from each other. You're sometimes very close, and you're in danger of coming down with COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, luckily that seems like most of that's behind us. So we see everything seems to be much better now.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah. And before we get started or anything, I just want to mention that the coat that you're wearing is your prop that you wore in Black Christmas.
Was not actually a prop, Dominic. It was my own coat,
Oh,
and
okay.
I wore it out of self-defense. We were shooting that winter that we shot. That was a particularly cold winter, although not a lot of snow. In fact, the snow that was in the film around the sorority house was fake snow, some kind of firefighting foam. And your shoes looked pretty ridiculous when you walked through it after a while. It looked like you had clown feet because it kind of stuck to your feet and exponentially grew. So you had large white shoes on your feet. But if you remember in Black Christmas, we were searching. It was actually John Saxon's first night. He had flown in, replacing another actor, Edmund O'Brien, who couldn't go on. He was very ill. John flew in and went straight to the set from the airport about 11 at night, and it was below zero, either Fahrenheit or centigrade. It was freezing, and I remember I had the fur coat on, and I remember enveloping Olivia Hussey in it because she was freezing. It was no longer Romeo and Juliet anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's cool. So it's your own coat that became a prop, and then went back to being your own.
It became wardrobe. Yes, actually, wardrobe.
Cool. Well, we'll get back to Black Christmas in a bit, but I do want to start off by talking a little bit about your upbringing. I understand you were born in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
My dad, it's a naval port for the Canadian Navy. My dad was in the Navy, and I was born there. And about 5 months later, my mom and I traveled back to where they both grew up in the east end of Toronto, which is called the Beaches. So she took me back there because she didn't want to hang out in Halifax at that time. So a lot of people think I was raised there, but that's not actually the case.
Right.
Although I do, in a way, anybody that's born or raised in Nova Scotia, they're called a blue noser, and that's named after a famous sailing ship that used to win all the races on the East Coast. And I do have a model of it here.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's the blue nose. There's been a number of variations of it, and the latest one is in a city, a town called Lunenburg in Nova Scotia, and Nova Scotia is well worth a visit for any of you Americans that want to come up to Canada. The East Coast is a great place to visit.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go there. It's definitely on my list. To go check it out. So, and what was your connection to the arts growing up? Did you did you read? Did you do photography? What kind of first?
No, I didn't have any. I didn't. The only connection that I ever had it was remote, and it didn't amount to anything. Was my mother's sister married an actor, a Canadian actor, who later moved to the States and had quite a career. He worked on Kirk Douglas's favorite film called Lonely Are the Brave. And he did a few other films. He was in 3 Days of the Condor.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, he had quite a career in the States. He was on Broadway and won some awards, things like that. A man named Michael Caine, Kane, not to be confused with Michael Caine, the English actor. And no, he never had any connection with me when I eventually became an actor, although later we did develop a relationship, but they lived so far away from us. And there was seemingly no chance when I was growing up in Toronto back in those days of connecting with any theater or film. There wasn't much film or theater going on in those days in Toronto. It was a small city, and what theater there was very limited and sort of tightly encircled by just a few actors. So there wasn't a lot. So
right. So what do you recall? That got you interested in pursuing acting? Was it theater that you did first, or was it photography? What clicked that made you want to become an actor?
Well, it was actually I went to see a play one night. I was a stockbroker. Mm-hmm. I went to see a play, and I was very moved by it. I cried. I remember crying about it, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of what I'd like to do. I know when I was a teenager, my mom was always pushing me to be an actor because she loved movies, but she had asthma. She couldn't go to a movie because she'd usually have an asthma attack. So I'd go to the movies and I'd come home and she'd want me to tell her all about the movie. And so I'd act it out, and she would laugh if it was a comedy or whatever. She'd cry if it was serious, and she'd finally say, "Oh, Arthur, you should be an actor. You're so good, But, and of course, and the other thing was that because of my childhood, I won't go into it all, but I was, basically didn't have a lot of friends, and so, when you have that, you don't have a lot of friends. You kind of have to make up games yourself. I had tin soldiers. I had, I used to have I used to play cowboys by myself, stuff like that. So you develop this great imagination, and you're always acting things, so I guess all of that. And, I just was so unhappy as a stockbroker as well. So I just figured, what the hell, I'd made a lot of money as a broker. Even though I had 2 kids with a third on the way, I just decided just to jump into it like I do everything. And you know what? It ended up, Dom, a lot of luck played into it. I could go into detail about it, but anyway, a lot of luck plays into becoming successful in this business because it's a very tough business with a lot of rejection.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember your first?
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Do you remember your first audition? What you auditioned for first?
It was probably for a commercial or an industrial film. I do remember my first commercial. I had to walk and talk with a girl, a woman, and I remember the camera guy was walking with me, and I kept straying, away and going out of focus, and he was having a. They finally had to tie me to with a rope to the cameraman, and we had to keep that rope taut so I'd stay in focus, and it was just embarrassing. So yeah, it was it was a tough go, and I think I remember the first dramatic thing I did was maybe a 15-20 minute what they called an industrial film for Uniroyal tires, and it was something called a rain tire, and I was the young punk driving the convertible car with the girlfriend, the beautiful girlfriend, and it gets recommended by the gas station attendant, you should get rain tires because these tires are you're going to have trouble. And no, I don't need rain tires. And of course, later on in the film, it rains and I crash and I kill my girlfriend, and now I regret I didn't buy Uniroyal rain tires.
Wow, that's pretty harsh. They really wanted to sell those tires.
But it was a start, right? It was.
Yeah. Well, if my research is correct, your first major movie was The Proud Rider, a biker film in 1971. Is this correct?
That's correct. That's very correct. Yes.
Yeah. Do you recall your experience?
I knew I couldn't fool you. I couldn't fool you, Don.
No. Well, I kind of do a little bit of research before I do these. So, do you recall, your experience being the first time on set, on a film set? What that was like?
Yes. The first day I was on set, I almost died. The first day. So I auditioned on a Wednesday, and they let me know Thursday afternoon that I had the part. And they had asked me in the interview after I did the audition, they said, "Can you ride a bike?" And I knew they meant a motorcycle, but they said bike, right? So by omission, I said, yes, I can ride a bike. But if you're talking motorcycles, I said, my brother is much better. He races them. So they jumped to the conclusion, Dom, that, he must be a good bike rider, but his brother is a racer, so he must be pretty good, meaning me.
Right.
So then Thursday afternoon, they let me know that I had the part, and they would start Monday morning. So I phoned my brother, and I said, "Guess what?" I said, I have to learn to ride a motorcycle by Monday morning. So I need you to show me how to do it. So he says, well, I don't have any of my motorcycles because I sent them to go back for a race. So he says, I'll see what I can do. So late Friday afternoon, he found somebody who loaned him a Triumph Bonneville motorcycle, which has nothing to do with bikers and Harleys. So we got together down by a river in downtown Toronto, where there was a sandy soil where we could drive around. I could fall over and not hurt myself. And so for half an hour, he taught me that. So he kind of taught me how to ride a motorcycle. And then on the Sunday afternoon, I was at I went to the gang's headquarters, and the gang leader gave me a Decker motorcycle to Harley Davidson to practice on. Mm-hmm. Then Monday morning, 7 a.m., we're at the studio, and the gang showed up, and the gang leader, Jack the Bear, told the producers that police had raided them at a party the night before, and a few guys were taken away. But the main problem was they found the bike that they were supposed to provide for me, and it was taken away because it didn't have the proper papers. He said, but a deal is a deal, so pick a bike out of the group of bikers that just showed up. So they picked a chopper, and they asked me if I could ride it, and was I okay with this? So I said, well, let me take it around the block and see. So I took it around the block, wobbled around the block a little bit, and thought, oh, I can fake this. So I did. And I came back and said, okay, let's go. Let's do it. And so we went out. We did a whole bunch of riding scenes all day long in a provincial park, a park set aside by the government with, roads and trees and all that kind of stuff. So it looked like we were driving through the country.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy whose bike it was had to ride on the back of somebody else's bike. And he wasn't very happy, of course, and he especially wasn't very happy as he watched me ride it the third time in my life riding a motorcycle, where he watched me try to start it and drop the bike on the pavement, or ride over curbs, or grind the gears, all this kind of stuff. So at the end of it, where they said wrap, they said, what does that mean? And he says, they said, oh, that's finished. He says, get on the back of this bike. I'm going to show you how to ride it. So off we went. And we're going into this one corner, and I'm thinking to myself, this is going too fast. I've been around this corner all day doing this thing. And sure enough, the bike went down. It slid. It was on a banked corner. Fortunately, no guardrail. We flew off into the air, and we landed about 30 feet away in a field. And right away, I stood up. I was okay. My pants were torn, and my boot was ripped. He tried to stand up, but he yelled and fell down again. And it turned out he'd broken his leg at the shin. And I walked back, and all the gang showed up at that moment. And the biker leader was really pissed off, and he told Monk, he called him a name. That Monk was the guy who owned the bike. Mm-hmm. And I walked up and I said, who the F is going to take me back now? And Monk, Jack the Bear says, get out my bike, So after that, I had no problems with the gang. They thought I was pretty tough to survive that. And but that was my first day, and it could have been my last day. I could not be here right now talking to you.
Yeah. See, that
hadn't been lucky.
That was your perfect opportunity to say, if only that motorcycle had Royal Snow tires on it, we would have been okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
yeah, that was. I think I was getting paid $150 a week for that film.
Wow. Well, Black Christmas came in 1974, which is still one of the films that you're most known for. How did you first become attached to that film, and what was your first meeting with Bob Clark like?
It was in a hotel room, and my part at the time for the script was so small that he had no scenes for me to read. Really, he had me read Keir Dullea scenes, and then that was pretty great. And then he told me right there, he says, you got the part. And I said, this part? He says, no. He says, Keir Dullea's got that part. He says, you've got another part. But what he did do was, Olivia had not worked for a couple of years. She had taken time off. She had a child. Mm-hmm. But she was coming up early, so she wanted to do some rehearsing ahead of time for all the scenes. And Keir couldn't make it, so I ended up rehearsing all those scenes with her for like about 2 weeks. And wow. So the opportunity in that case was we were working. Actually, he had the house, the sorority house, where we were going to film everything. And he was meeting all the crew that he wanted to hire. So I got a chance to watch Bob Clark in action. He would interview them, and Olivia and I'd say, well, do you want us to leave? And he'd say, no, you can hang around. So I'd watch him interview these crew about different specialities. And what I found out was Bob knew, it seems, as much about their work as he did, and their job as they did. So, he was a pretty special guy, great filmmaker, and he's missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the film was a precursor to many slasher films that took the format from Black Christmas. Are you a fan of horror films, personally?
Personally, no, I don't go out of my way to see them. I appreciate the quality of them. I've been in quite a few what you would call horror films. The Brood, Black Christmas, The Void. I guess you'd call it The Void would be a horror film. Sci-fi movies. I've been in a classic, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah, so and I also did. I did an episode of Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm. So when you sit down in front of your TV to watch a movie, your go-to isn't horror.
No, especially now that I'm married to Brooke, because she doesn't like horror movies at all. I remember we were at a convention, and this filmmaker from Czechoslovakia, matter of fact, he was a big fan of mine, and he said he was. They were showing one of his films at one of the little side theaters at the convention, and he hoped I would go see it. So I took Brooke to see it. And later I ran into him, and he says, "So what did you think?" And I said, "Well, I think it was pretty great." And I said, of course, the judgment of it was that Brooke jumped 6 times during the movie, and that's what she does. She doesn't see the slam cut coming, or the the door opening to some face or something. That she doesn't see it coming, and so she ends up jumping out of her seat.
Wow. Well, I guess it's a good exercise for to watch horror films. Black Christmas had a great cast that you were alongside: Olivia Hussey, John Saxon, Lynn Griffin, Margot Kidder. So many. What are some of your memories working with this cast? Did everyone get along well?
Oh yeah. Everybody got along great. Margot Kidder and we hit it off. She was actually the one that advised me to I should move to Los Angeles. I was living in Toronto at the time, and we stepped outside for a smoke. I smoked in those days, and she said, "So where have they put you up?" And I said, "The hotel." And I said, "No, I'm not at the hotel." She said, "Where are you?" I said, "Well, I live in Toronto." She said, "You live here?" She said, "Do you work much?" I said, "No, there's no work, Margot." And she said, "Well, you should move to Los Angeles. You would work all the time." I did. Eventually, the next year, I took off and moved to Los Angeles, and it was right. She was right. So, yeah, we all got along great. Olivia and I got along great. Andrea Martin, Lynn Griffin, we're still great friends. Yeah, it was great. And Bob Clark, of course, who I ended up doing, so yeah, it was
Very
great.
cool. And
Great
you had mentioned
experience.
before,
As people always ask me, Tom, huh? People
No, I
always
was just
ask
gonna
me. I think you've heard them ask me. They always say, "Oh, did you know it was going to be a classic?" I say, "No, we don't know it's going to be a classic." And actually, I think I'm quoted on IMDb. I said, all we do is push the film before they take our money away from us.
Yeah, right. You just have to do your best work and hope that it's a classic, right?
Yeah, you're not even thinking classic. You're just thinking, I hope somebody watches this.
Yeah.
At least with theater, you got the audience right there with you. So, but with film, all you got is a bunch of some crew guys, and some of them are sitting off camera reading newspapers while you're acting your heart out.
Right. Well, you had mentioned before we went on air that John Saxon wasn't the original actor for that part. He was flown in last minute. You want to talk about that a little bit, in case people don't know?
Well, it was an actor named Edmund O'Brien. He has a long career. 7 Days in May. He had a major role. He was a terrific actor. He was in Charles Laughton's Hunchback of Notre Dame. He was in that. He's done so many great body of work. Unfortunately, he was suffering from what they didn't even know at that time, which was dementia, and he was slowly losing it. And he actually came into Toronto, and Bob and the producers realized that he was not going to be able to do this film. It was just going to be too hard for him, and so they paid him off. And John Saxon had originally been considered, and they had talked to John about doing the film at one point, and so Bob took a chance and hoped that John would, not feel slighted by not being the first choice. And of course, he wasn't, and he jumped on a plane and flew up, and he was great. He was great in the film. Working with him was great. Working with everybody was great. Doug McGrath, who plays the cop in the police station, who has to write down the phone number, Felicio,
right,
whatever the number is. He's a great friend. He was a few years before that, he was in a great Canadian film called Going Down the Road. He won Best Actor in the Canadian Film Awards. Terrific guy. He went on to work with Clint Eastwood a lot. He was in Clint Eastwood's group of actors that he had in all his films. So everybody was terrific and wonderful to work with. And, the crew was great. And of course, Bob Clark was great too.
Yeah. I was going to mention Doug, because nobody really talks about him, and his comedic timing was just spot. He reminded me of Don Knotts a little bit, with his facial expression.
Yeah, he was also in Porky's, as you recall.
Yeah.
He was one of the coaches.
Yeah, he's still alive, right? He's still around.
He's around. I don't know if he's working much. I think he's basically semi-retired. He may be like me. Lately I've been saying no to a lot of things, partly because of COVID. Just too much trouble.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it, the project, and think, this would be a lot of trouble to wear a mask and things like that. So, I've just been saying no to things, and I think he's kind of saying no to things too. He was always very particular anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said yes to me to do this.
Well, this is easy. I don't have to wear a mask,
Right.
I hold on just a second.
You gotta put a mask on.
Okay. Sorry. Here's a couple of examples of masks that we've been wearing. The first one, I had to wear a shield over my mask. Mm-hmm. They gave me these things where it's kind of like this. I don't know if you can read. Is that on backwards?
No, we can read it.
Face shield. So it says face shield, right?
Yep.
So they gave me one of those, and first time I was going, oh no, I have to wear this over my head and walk around on the set. And it was my first day, and I wanted everybody to know who I was and remember my name, even though most of them seemingly did. But I asked wardrobe, I said, can you put my name on the front of this shield so people know who I am? And she quickly got a piece of tape and put my name on it and put it on. And I walked out on the set with this. So anyway, somebody told me about it right away, but I said, hell, I'm going to leave it there.
Right.
And then recently I did another film, and the next thing they came up with, because these had straps on the back of them, so causing problems with actors' hair and things like that. So they came up with a shield like this with glasses built into the inside of it, right, like that.
Wow. So
they gave me one, and I thought, again, it's a mask and it's so impersonal. So I did this to it.
Right. That looks like a horror film.
Yeah, that looks like somebody told me. I didn't realize what I was doing. I just did it quickly. Somebody
Wow.
later said it looks like, what is it, the Joker?
The COVID killer. Wow.
So,
Wow.
you know, you got to have fun with these things, Dom.
You always have to.
That's my motto on set. I always think a set is my Disneyland, and I always tell people if my lips are moving, I'm joking. You know, that's I just love. I just like to kid a lot on the set when I'm not working.
Very cool. Yeah, that's great. Well, to wrap up the Black Christmas convo, the original title was Silent Night, Evil Night. Were you ever given a reason why it was changed?
No. Actually, the original title was Black Christmas, I think, and Silent Night, Evil Night became the American version of Black Christmas.
Okay.
And the reason for that, I'm told, is because the American distributors were afraid that people would think it was a Christmas movie about black people.
Wow.
And so
Okay.
changed it.
All right. Well,
It's like a film I did, a hockey movie I did that you know about called Face Off.
yes.
Not to be confused with John Travolta and
Yes.
Christian Slater's movie. It was done in '71 and with real NHL hockey players, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, when it got distributed in the States, they thought, oh, people would think Face Off was about, I don't know what, it would be about somebody's face coming off or something like that. So they changed the name of this hockey movie with a hockey name to Winter Comes Early.
Wow. That's a big difference.
That's a big difference, isn't it? It doesn't have the same ring as Silent Night, Evil Night, you know, which is okay in my books, but Winter Comes Early, you know.
Wow. Well, it's beloved now everywhere as Black Christmas. So
Yeah.
And we know it's not about black people, so that's good.
Maybe
black ice. There might have been some black ice in there, but well, I enjoyed a film that you did that doesn't get talked about enough. A film called A Small Town in Texas. This was such a great cast of character actors with Susan George and Buck Flower and Bo Hopkins and many others. What are your memories of this film? Was this directly after coming to LA?
That was my first Hollywood movie. It was done in I think in the new year of 1976. And I'd done a couple of episodics in the States when I moved there. Police Story. I think I did
Beretta.
Starsky and Hutch. I don't know if Beretta was. I think Beretta was after Small Town in Texas. But anyway, yeah. So that was fun, and working with a wild and crazy director, also actor, a guy named Jack Sterrett, a Texas boy, and he used to, at the end of the day, about 5 in the afternoon or 5 or 6, he'd have them deliver to him a shooter, what he called a shooter, and that was a big beer mug of you fill it with ice, and then you fill it with vodka and make the ice float.
Wow, that sounds fun.
He'd finish off his day with that instead of these. I don't know if you've ever heard of an expression called the martini shot in filmmaking, but they always say, "Oh, this is the martini shot," and the martini shot means it's the last shot of the day.
Oh, because you're going to get a martini when you're done.
Yeah. And the second last shot of the day, I think it's called the window shot, you know, and that's, you're looking out the window, you're seeing the last shot of the day. So window martini. So in his case, it was the shooter shot, you know, he was going to consume that whole thing while we shot the last scene of the day. Bo Hopkins was a nice guy, a great guy. John Carlin was in it. John was well known, later became well known for being the husband of one of those cops, Cagney and Lacey.
Mm-hmm.
So he made a lot of money that way. And Timothy Bottoms. Timothy Bottoms was great to work with. Yeah, that was my first experience in a Hollywood movie. I remember one particular scene. I had to work with an actor, and we were going to do this scene, and you know, my first movie and everything, and he said to me, we got together in the dressing room a couple hours before the shot, and he says, you play backgammon. So we started playing backgammon, and then he pulled out a joint. He started smoking the joint, and I said, you know, we're doing that scene today, you know, and he said, oh, I'm just working on a relaxation technique. I said, oh, and then he says, here, you want some? And I had to think, I kind of felt like, you know, I must have felt like one of the narcs, you know, who's infiltrating the drug gang, and you know, he has to do the drugs so he doesn't get caught, right? So I kind of thought to myself, well, I've smoked that stuff before. I know I can handle it. But it happened to be pretty good. So we did this, and then we did the scene, and I'm thinking to myself the whole time we're shooting that, I'm thinking, boy, this scene is going to be really good. This is great, right? Of course, The next day, Jack let me go and watch the rushes, and my Texas accent had turned into a JFK accent. I came out, I was practically in tears. I said to Jack, what am I going to do? I said, you know, I don't sound like Texas at all. My accent went away. And he says, we'll fix it in post, you know, where they fix everything, all the movies, all the problems with movies. The joke is they'll fix it in post. That means after the film's over.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, that was a warm welcome to LA, I'm sure, you know, doing
Oh no, it was great. I got well paid for it, and actually had my oldest son there with me on set for a while. That was great too.
Very cool. And I believe it's on Amazon Prime if anybody wants to check it out.
Is it? That's amazing. I don't think I've seen it in 40 years. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I saw it.
Yeah, it's a kind of a Western grindhousey kind of feel. Which
it's kind of, you know, there's some motorcycle racing in it. The cop car chasing the lead actor Timothy Bottoms on a motorcycle, and you know, there's some violence in it. I think my character gets killed in it. It was all shot down south of Austin, Texas, down around a place called Lockhart, Texas, which used to be where they put together the cattle for the big cattle drives up to Kansas.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you did a bunch of TV throughout the 70s. You had mentioned some of those titles, Starsky and Hutch, and then Beretta and Barnaby Jones, before landing the role of Jeffrey in the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Were you a fan? Had you seen the original Body Snatchers?
That's what got me the part, Tom.
Oh, okay.
I went into just a meeting with the producers, with Phil Kaufman and Bob. Blanking on this name. I know it, but I'm blanking. Anyway, they said, Phil said, did you ever see the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers? And I said to Phil, I said, see it? I was a little kid. I saw it. I couldn't look at a watermelon for 2 years. and that kind of broke him up. And you know, although having a sense of humor had nothing to do with the character, I guess, but
no. But
Phil,
they knew you'd be fun to work with.
That's right. Yeah. So I had a great time with that. That was a great time. That was maybe my best experience in Hollywood, was working on that film.
Yeah.
Working with especially working with Leonard Nimoy and Brooke Adams. That was two joys working with both of them, and Jeff Goldblum. You know, we'd while the days away on the set by playing gin. You know, we'd make up some kind of the winner takes, what is this? This is for the whole ball of wax, or this is for all the marbles, or this is for the whole shooting match, or, you know, we'd keep coming up with different things. And, you know, people wonder what the hell we were giggling about over there in the corner, you know, but Jeff was great in that film. I really enjoyed it, and I always think that's an example of what advice I give to young filmmakers when they're making horror movies or they're making something that's really taut and going to be stressful for audiences, to try and put a little humor into something, to make give everybody a little bit of relief,
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Well, most of your scenes were with Brooke Adams and Donald Sutherland. Did you
yeah.
rehearse? Did you do any rehearsals with those actors, or did you rehearse?
Oh yeah, we rehearsed. We did it's minimal rehearsals. You don't need much with that, and especially with Phil Kaufman, he pretty much knows what he wants. He
Yeah.
gives you some latitude. Um, the cinematographer.
I'm a big fan of The Right Stuff. Another movie he directed.
Yeah, no, and the incredible lightness of being. You remember that one?
Yes.
But there's I'm trying to remember the name of the cinematographer. Anyway, Michael. Anyway, he was amazing because he would sit in through all the rehearsals. Not the first rehearsal is usually with just the cast and the director.
Yes.
Well, he'd be right on Phil Kaufman's shoulder.
Michael Chapman.
Chapman. Yes, Michael Chapman. Of course, I can't forget it. Rest in peace, Michael. But he would watch, and he would have a sense of what the actors were doing and how they were doing it and what they were trying to project and what Phil wanted. And he would light the film according to that. I remember one time we're doing the scene where I actually am picking up the broken glass beside the bed, and I move a certain way. And Michael he says, "Can you move slower?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I can. Why?" What? He says, "Because at that moment, I'm changing the lighting a little bit just to accentuate something that's going on between you and Brooke." I'd never heard that before, and that's the kind of cinematographer he was. I think he's done so many great things. Taxi Driver, of course,
Yes.
and on down the line. But
that
was quite an experience.
was a character in itself. His cinematography, it was its own character. A lot of the stuff.
Yeah, it was. That is the one film I've done that if I had to watch something I've done over and over again, that would be the one. I would watch that over and over and over again.
It's a good one. Your character was very stoic. Once he even before he became a pod, he was kind of stoic. And you did a great job. You did a great job of like showing very little emotion.
I didn't want to show much emotion, but I didn't want to be like a zombie. I didn't want, and that was actually I was the first, first pod person you see, really, other than the famous actor who's on the swing in the movie, as you know.
Yes.
You know who that is.
Yeah.
So Phil and I talked about that, and I basically thought that this character could, if even though they no longer have any emotion, they can think emotion so that they can disguise themselves. So we kind of went that way with it. So I think that plays out in the final film.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you recall doing any takes where you just broke character and started laughing?
Oh, I think there was a couple of them, especially where was it? It was, I think, where Leonard Nimoy was trying to give Donald and Brooke the syringe. We were having a little trouble with that because there was some scuffling around and stuff like that. And I think one of the times he didn't have a real syringe, but I think he ended up accidentally giving one of us a shot, you know.
Right. Very cool.
So
Yeah. Well, what do you recall seeing Body Snatchers for the first time with an audience, and what the reactions were?
no, I didn't see body. I didn't see, never saw Body Snatchers with an audience. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, of course I did. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. Of course. Yes. And it was very important too, because I was in the middle of doing a film that I had no idea what the hell I was doing and what the hell was going on. And was I going to survive this thing? And what kind of crazy film is this? I was doing The Brood in Toronto with somebody a director I'd never met before, this crazy guy named Cronenberg. And I went to an opening night of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and I was blown away, absolutely blown away.
That's
I couldn't wait to tell Cronenberg how great a film I was in.
that's awesome. It's one
And
of
I
it's
hope
one of the few that surpasses the original, I think. In a way.
yes, yes. A lot of people think it's one of the best remakes ever done.
Yes.
They're always arguing about remakes.
Yeah. And speaking of David Cronenberg, his remake of The Fly, I think, is also superior remake than the original.
I think it is too. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I totally agree. David, he was kind of handicapped a bit with doing The Brood. I think it was his next film. What was it called? Dead Zone.
Yes.
I think was quite a bit better in all forms than The Brood. And then, of course, the next two films. Yeah, and Scanners, not Scanners. Scanners was before. The one with
Videodrome.
Jeremy Irons.
Oh, Dead Ringers.
Yeah,
Dead Ringers.
that was really good. And he had more money. I mean, there wasn't much money in The Brood. I think I got paid $8,000. At the time, I thought, oh, that's okay, because my girlfriend at the time was doing a film in Toronto, and I happened to be visiting Toronto, and that's how I ended up getting hooked up with him. And I thought, well, I'm here, I might as well do it.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite Cronenberg film, The Brood.
Really?
Yep, that's my favorite
one. I'm flattered and I'm amazed in a sense, not because it's not, it's I think it just is a sheer horror film. It's really devastating. It was horrific making the movie. There was blood all the time. I think you remember me saying the one direction I only heard David say to anybody was more blood.
Yeah.
That's I'd come in with my jacket had some blood on it, or a body had some blood on it, or there was some blood on a counter or something like that, and they'd say, "What do you think, David?" And he'd say, "More blood." In fact, I had a T-shirt made with those words on it, and I gave it to David at Wrap.
That's great. That's great. Well, you shared the part with Oliver Reed and Samantha Agar, but do you think this was your first starring role in a film, The Brood, where you were kind of the lead?
No. Oh, no. I was the lead in the hockey movie, Face
That was
Off.
before this?
That was in 1971.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First there.
I was the lead in that. I was the lead in Proud Rider, the biker film.
Yeah.
And so The Brood was, to me, it was just I didn't see it coming. I did not see it coming. I just saw, I remember, I think David showed me some rushes one time of the two fetuses. Can we call them fetuses? Walking down the road in snowsuits. And I thought to myself, is anybody going to believe this? Is anybody going to believe that a woman can birth fetuses from the outside of her body, and then somehow they get into snowsuits, and then somehow they end up at the mother-in-law's place or the father-in-law's place, or she wills them to start killing people, or they end up in the kindergarten,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Dave, that's the brilliance of David.
Yes.
He can make you believe anything.
Yeah.
He can
I
make you
don't.
believe. He can make you believe you can put a VHS tape in your belly.
Right.
So
Exactly. I don't think you can categorize Cronenberg movies into any genre. I think they're elements of many genres in his films, and I think his movies are a genre within itself. You know,
yes, I agree with you, Dominic.
you can't really categorize them. They're not
No,
horror, they're Cronenberg.
that's
And
right. They're just one word. They're
yeah,
Cronenberg films.
yes, yeah. And Susan Hogan's death in the film is my favorite. I think it's the most memorable because the way it was shot. The overhead shot, the way it was shot from above, it was
Yeah,
just unsettling. Because you can see these creatures coming at her, and she has no idea.
yeah. I'm still in touch with, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the cinematographer is on Facebook, and we stay in touch. Mark
Oh,
Irwin, and he's still doing his thing, man. And he's done some. He's been involved in some terrific films. I think Cronenberg and him moved on from each other, but he's just keeps getting better and he's just at the top of his game. Mark
yeah.
Irwin.
No, he did a great job with that film. That's, as I said, my favorite of Cronenberg's, just because of how raw it is, and I think it's the acting. All the actors are so good in it. Everybody.
Yeah, there's some terrific actors in it, but like you say, Susan, uh, Robert, what's his name, Rosenberg, the guy with he shows me all the stuff on his neck.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, he
Of course,
he was
Oliver
a
Reed,
favorite, huh?
and of course
Oliver
Oliver
Reed.
Reed.
Yeah, Ollie was terrific in that. Yeah, he really carried that film, I think.
Yeah. There's all the stories about him being drunk on set all the time. Was that the case
No,
for
no,
you?
he wasn't drunk on the set. He
No.
he did like to have his cognac, um, you know, around the martini shot. It was the cognac shot for him. But other than that, he showed up, and worked hard all day.
Yeah, he was great. Great actor. You know. Well,
And
we're coming
you
up.
have to give for that film as well, Dom. You have to give a lot of credit to Cindy, who
Yeah,
played my daughter.
Cindy Hines. Yes.
She was a trooper. I mean, how she hasn't got that doesn't have nightmares from doing that film, I don't know. But she does claim that her and I developed a great relationship, and that really helped her a lot through the film. And of course, it's like kids and animals are attracted to me, Dom. I'm an animal and kid magnet. I've got 5 of my own, 5 kids, and yeah, I've had a lot of animals too. But all the kids I've worked with in films and things like that, we stay in touch, and
Yeah. Well.
they say I help them a lot or stuff like that. But there's a reason none of my kids are actors, is because I didn't want them to have to go through that. Although my youngest eventually became an actor, but he didn't become an actor until his mid-20s.
Right. Right. Very cool. Well, I think it's your childlike qualities. Your humor, and you're very open and warm, and you grow
Yeah,
up.
people ask me the difference because I'm also a director. They say, "What's the difference between when you act and when you direct?" I said, "Well, when I act, I feel like I'm a kid on the set. I'm playing. This is my playground, and when I'm a director, I feel like I'm an adult. I have to be an adult. And by the end of the day, when my head hits the pillow as a director, I'm exhausted. But when I rap as an actor, I feel like, hey, why are we finished? Why can't we do some more stuff? Hey, come on, the day's not over.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Well, you talked about Bob Clark a little bit, and we're coming up on an hour, so we're going to wrap in a little bit. But I have to mention,
Okay.
I have to mention Porky's just because, just like Black Christmas, he kind of was the precursor to the high school like sex comedy type genre before it even existed. Um, would you say Bob Clark was ahead of his time with his work?
Well, he was, he was certainly uh, flexible. He was a very flexible director, unlike like Cronenberg stayed pretty much in the same ballpark. But if you think about Bob Clark's body of work, you can go from Black Christmas, which is a slasher film, to a slasher Christmas movie, to A Christmas Story, which is one of the sweetest Christmas stories on
Yeah,
record, to Porky's, which is a raunchy teenage film, to doing a Sherlock Holmes film with Christopher Plummer, to doing uh, a kind of a comedy, well, more like a dramedy, a romantic comedy with Jack Lemmon.
he was very versatile.
Yes, he was. He was tremendously versatile and a great filmmaker. Like I said, he knew everybody's job, and he was always the sweetest guy on the set. And, and who's looking at in the window, the leg lamp in the window, and 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 Bob had to. He was always kind of a ham. He had to give this guy. It's supposed to take place in Cleveland, and he gives his neighbor a kind of a southern accent. What the hell is that in that window there? That looks like a leg. What? So, but he's a sweet guy. He's always sweet.
Yes.
We miss him. He's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Who knows
Too
what,
bad.
how many amazing movies we would have had from him if he was still around.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
And he's done a few bad ones. But there was usually a reason. I think he did one with Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton, and Sylvester Stallone's hands were all over that one. He was, and his boots and everything. He was, that was one of Bob's worst experiences. He couldn't handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hear that a lot about Stallone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
your most memorable scene in Porky's is blowing away Chuck Mitchell's car. Was that a fun scene?
It was a great fun scene. It was a little chilly in Florida in February when we were doing March when we were doing that, but still it was great fun, and everybody was there on the set. There was a huge crowd. All the whole cast was there, so it was great fun, and we just had a ball that night. And actually, there's a scene where I take that shotgun and I smash his headlight on his big old 52 Hudson or whatever the hell it was. And so Bob says, "Okay, let's do the shot and action." And I walk up, and with the butt of my shotgun, I smacked the headlight of that Hudson, and it was like I was like a cartoon character where I went boing, and the headlight didn't break because it was like the bottom of a whole Coke bottle, right? And I so take 2, take 3, take 4, and Bob finally says, "Give me that gun," and he says, "Okay, just do a close up of the headlight. I'm going to do this," and he was quite a strapper. He could have looked like a middle linebacker, right? So he takes the damn thing and he says action, and then he does it. Bang! The same thing happened to him. They finally had to get the crew to drill holes in it and weaken the glass so I could smash it. That's how we ended up doing it, But
Wow.
that's just funny stuff like that.
They don't make cars like that anymore.
No, they don't. It was like a tank,
Wow.
And when they had to push it away, they had to push it away in the scene, right? They could, even with all their heft, with Alec Karras and Chuck Mitchell and all their heft and everything. Boy, they had a hard time pushing it out of camera, you know.
Well, just a personal question, because I know you did an episode of Our House with Wilford Brimley, and Wilford was a friend and one of my clients, and I'm just curious, did you get to know him at all?
Yeah, you know, we chatted and stuff like that. You know, he wasn't, you know, he wasn't always the most forthcoming, I understand, you know, on set and things like that. He was, you know, he was pretty gruff. I had a couple of scenes with him, and you know, it's kind of one of those things where you just say, well, you know, he's going to read his newspaper, whatever he's going to do, and I'm going to go and talk to the kids, or I'm going to go and you know, learn my lines, you know, something like that. But he was a terrific actor. He's a great actor. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great guy, and he was
Yeah.
very funny, not meaning to be funny, just being himself. He was funny.
Yeah, he was. I have a friend of mine who people always think he's Wilford Brimley, a cinematographer friend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer that we lost him. You know, he was a character.
Yeah. How old was he when he passed? Huh?
I think he was 85.
Okay.
84, 85. Yeah, he had a good run.
Yeah.
Especially considering, you know, that he was diabetic for all those years and had health issues for, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, didn't he start acting late?
He did, yeah. His first role was one of the apes in Planet of the Apes that was riding a horse. That was his.
There you go, yeah, because he was from some western state, someplace, wasn't he?
Yep. He was from Wyoming, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, great guy. Well, you played many cops, detectives, and dads over your career. Is there a character on your bucket list that you want to play?
Well, you know, I came close with a film called Robbery, where I played a career criminal who was maybe in the beginning stages of dementia. But you know, there's so many roles now that I'm right for, you know, that I'd like to explore. You know, grandfather roles and things like that, you know, besides the Hallmark movies that I seem to be doing a lot of. So yeah, I'd like to explore aging. I'd like to explore relationships in aging, you know, falling in love, you know, in the autumn years, you know, that kind of thing. You know, that stuff. That's kind of what I'd like to start exploring, you know, a little more. And I do try to encourage young filmmakers, you know, and mentor them in hopes that they'll come up with something for me.
Yeah,
purely selfish reasons.
Yeah, well, did you see that movie, The Father, with Anthony Hopkins?
The Father.
I believe it was called The Father. Yeah, brilliant film.
Yeah, I've actually got a filmmaker with a script that I did a read through of, and his first choice is Anthony Hopkins, and he's been in touch with him. And if they get the right budget, Anthony wants to do it. And his second choice, if they don't get that budget, is me.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and it's kind of a road movie with a guy and his son, and they're kind of disaffected from each other, and so you know, I'll keep my fingers crossed, see what happens. You know.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I've noticed you've been doing a lot of Hallmark type feel good movies lately.
Yeah, and they're fine. The people that do them are great. Nice people. They're easygoing. You know, they have kind of a so kind of similar plots and things like that. You can, make a few jokes about them, but overall, I have a lot of fun times with them.
Mhm.
Good people, and you find variance and differences in each one, and you play off that and work that. I've met some good folks with it. One particular guy, Brennan Elliott, who is, he's Mr. Hallmark, but he and I hit it off really well. He played my son in a recent one called A Perfect Pairing, and then we did another one called Christmas Encore, which was about a small theater in Manhattan, and we shot it in a small town in northern Ontario. So it stood in for Manhattan. So
Yeah.
but they're all fun. I just enjoy being on a set, as you know, Dom. So
Yeah.
I don't care what they are, as long as we're on set and the people are nice people, and I'll do anything.
Yeah, I always love with the Hallmark movies when they're supposed to take place in like Wyoming or Montana, but everybody has Canadian accents.
Yes, Montana. We did a film called Christmas in Montana. I guess that's the one you're referring to. And we shot that outside of, where Hamilton is.
Yes.
You've been up this way. Where Hamilton, just by Niagara Falls there. That was our log cabin ranch was there. And then we shot the barn and the stables and things like that just north of here where I am, which is north of Toronto, out in the boonies. So we just shot that, and that was supposed to be Montana. So yeah, it's kind of always interesting. Now, where in Montana did you say you shot that?
Right. Right. Everybody in
No,
Montana has Canadian accents.
well, we try not to, but yes.
So what can we look for that's coming out next? Do you have in the can?
Well, Art of Christmas, the one you mentioned, we just shot that a few months ago, and they got it on I think on the Great American channel, pretty much right away. I'm trying to think. There's another one. Oh, there's one that I'm doing a. Do you get the Sci-Fi Channel?
Yes.
You want to look for Surreal Estate.
Okay.
That's in the title. That's all one word with a capital E in the middle. Surreal Estate.
Okay.
It's basically about a. Do you like Winona Ryder or Winona Earp? I mean.
The series, yes.
Series?
The Western, yeah.
Yeah. So the lead actor in that, a guy named Tim Rosen, is in this real estate, and it's about a guy and a real estate company whose job it is to rid homes of ghosts so they can be sold. So the homes can be sold. A home is as some kind of ghost or something. And I swear to you, Dom, each episode is like a movie unto itself. It's really well done. It's really terrific. Terrific actors. Sarah Levy from Schitt's Creek is the female lead, and it's just terrific. I actually play a ghost in it. I play the lead actor, Tim Rosen. I play his dad, who's passed on, but he and I have conversations. So
very cool.
You might want to check that out.
Surreal Estate.
But,
okay.
Yeah. I get a lot of feedback from people who love imposters. You hear about that? You know about that series?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I definitely have heard of it.
Well, it's streaming out there, but it ended up I came on it and played this old guy in a wheelchair for a couple of episodes, and then they canceled the damn thing. So
yeah, that's a lot of shows now.
Yeah, it is. It is
great. Well, I guess we'll if you guys want, everybody watching, if you want to keep in touch with Art, his social media is below him. You're not very active on Instagram, but I noticed Twitter and Facebook. You keep pretty active.
Twitter, I try to, but Facebook, I'm very active, and if somebody has a serious situation or interest or something like that, or whatever, they can get in touch with me through Facebook.
Yep, or they can look at news on stuff you have coming out on your Facebook.
Yes, I do try to post that if possible, and I'll be promoting more of the stuff that's coming out as it comes.
Well, we have one person watching. Desiree Stone says she loves Surreal Estate, so she's already watching.
Oh, great, yeah. I'm sure more people, if they watch it, they'll love it too. It's really well done.
Yeah. Chris says, love Art, such an incredible actor and wonderful man. Had fun talking to him at Horror Hound. She told you that you remind her of Robert Redford, and you told her a story about that.
Yeah, I did. I got mistaken for Robert Redford one time. It was really funny. I think I've told you that story. I was in Palm Springs, and me and my friend at the time, she said, well, let's not go back to Los Angeles. I said, okay, we'll try and find a hotel. We couldn't find one until finally we went into the last place before we were going to decide to drive back. And we walked into and there was a night clerk there, and he's kind of sitting there, kind of half asleep. And he looks up and he says, Robert Redford. I said, no, do you have a room? He said, for you, I do. I said, well, I'm not Robert Redford, but I'd love a room. And he said, no, yeah, of course we'll have a room. And I said, okay. And so he starts doing everything. And I said, here, I'll put it on my credit card. And I gave him my credit card, and he looked at it and he says, oh, that's a good one. Like as if that was my fake name.
Wow.
So I went out and told my friend, and she said, she worked with Robert. She says, I've worked with Robert Redford, and you're no Robert Redford.
Well,
I think that's the one story he's referring to. Huh?
It's a good actor to be mistaken for.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I've gotten mistaken for a few different ones. Chad Everett, Lawrence Luckabee. Do you know who he is?
I don't know.
No, he's anyway. Different people. So,
meanwhile, somewhere Robert Redford's probably walking down the street, and somebody's saying, "God, I loved you in the Brood."
Yes.
Well, it looks like you also have.
Thank you, Dom, for this.
Yeah. You have a fan watching from in Brazil. So somebody says greetings from Brazil. Yeah.
I was just watching a film today about a James Bond film and had Brazil in it.
Yeah.
That's great.
People watching everywhere. Well, the last question I'm going to ask you, Art, I ask every actor that I talk to. I always love hearing the answers.
Okay.
If you could pick any director to direct you in a film and any actor to play the lead role with you, which director would you pick and which actor would you pick? And there's two caveats. They have to still be alive, and they have to be people you've never worked with.
Oh, okay. Director. Well, I guess I'd have to say I know it sounds weird, but I think from what I understand, his favorite film is Black Christmas. So I'd have an in with him. So I'd have to say Quentin Tarantino.
That's a good one.
And I'd probably have to do a scene with, let's see, favorite actor. Well, as of tonight, I think he's still alive, so it would have to be Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But I haven't heard. They're dropping off at such a rate these days. Or Jane Fonda.
Wow,
I think that'd be fun. One or the other.
You and Jane Fonda in a Quentin Tarantino film. That would be interesting.
I'm sure. I'm sure they'd pour money in for that one.
Well, we'll throw it out there in the universe.
Yes.
Well, Art, it's been real joy chatting with you, and I don't see you as much as I want to, but I'm sure we'll see each other again soon, and hopefully do some
It's
convention.
always great to see you, Dominic, and you look great. And I'm so happy for your life that's going as it's going right now. And I enjoyed doing this. And just talking to you is fine with me. It doesn't matter who's listening, but it's great. And I'm sure a lot of my friends are going to be interested in this. I'm sure they can watch it later, right?
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube
Somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right, Art. Well, you take it easy, and we'll be in touch soon.
Okay. You be safe down there. All right.
Yeah. And thank you so much to everyone who watched us live. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope you'll follow Art on his social media to see what he's up to. And happy holidays. We'll see you next time.
All right. Take care, buddy. Peace.